Alright guys, Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The drama continues with the Los Angeles Thieves guys. Envoy made that take not that long ago around the talent he sees in the challenger scene. There was then some big backlash to it, especially after what's happened recently with Super doing rather well in the CDL for the Miami Heretics, occasionally even beating Thieves along the way. But Envoy and Scrappy, they double down on the take and say, look, lots of the rookie players that are coming in aren't even young anymore. They've been around for years in the challenger side and now they're getting their opportunity. That doesn't really count in terms of the future of challengers talent and future challengers players, and Scrappy especially calling out Encourage and the fact that he didn't even play a whole year of challenges before calling it quits. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. This is an outrageous piece of content, by the way, like a reenaction of the classic Formula Doug 7 from back in the day. I mean, yeah, what can we even say about this anymore? Doug is like, man, what is even going on here? Lots of stuff happening though going into DreamHack Dallas. Of course, one of the big storylines in challenges is the Stallions team. They're playing with Skyz, as we know, but they're also playing with this Zach guy coming over from Australia. Now, unfortunately, he actually has had a bit of an incident because, as he says, I'll make an official tweet later after I smoke some babanya, but for now, I'm sorry, and for the future, get ready. Now, well, he puts this out there. So he landed and has had like an allergic reaction. I'm not exactly sure what to. I made it sound like it wasn't really bad at all, but as you can see in the photos, it's not looking good. So, yeah, anyway, he's come up with this big rash all over his body. And as he says, TJHaLy kindly helped me go to the ER after scrims tonight, and I was provided several medications. He specifically emphasized that it will not be completely fixed for 2 weeks, but the medication provided should make it significantly better. TJHaLy flew me across the world to play for his COD team and gave me a huge opportunity. I don't plan on letting him down. I'll do everything I can to put on a show for the Stallions this weekend. So, yeah, hopefully it works out. At the end of the day, if he's got some good medication, there's a good few days until, I mean, today's Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, Thursday, the event starts Friday. Hopefully it'll work out for him and he can actually, you know, still do a good job for the weekends, because I know that it's one of the talking points that people are keeping their eyes on. And actually, just speaking of that, this is how that is going to look. So this is the venue if you guys haven't seen it yet. Obviously, in a couple of days, we'll be able to actually walk around and talk about what's happening there in person. But we got the main stage, we got the VIP seating, we got like open seating, side stage, concessions, all the stuff at the back, and then the challengers pit behind everything. So it's going to be hectic in there. I looked up the, you know, the overall venue basically stats, and I think this is the biggest hall in the entire venue that we're using for COD. Even what they're using for IEM Dallas, the CS event, might not be quite as, you know, there's going to be loads of people in there for sure. But I don't think it's quite spread out and executed quite how this is, because there's so many other things that we do in COD, or that we can do in COD, they're not doing elsewhere. Now, Dallas DreamHack is also hosting HyDra, right? This is another big talking point of the weekends, because the OpTic HyDra team with Formal, they're looking to keep up their early momentum from the season, and, you know, because obviously they won that first event of the year, right? And now they play DreamHack this weekend. So, big talking point there was Screw and FaZe, getting some pretty decent results in it, but it's just going to be exciting to have everyone there in person kind of at the same time. Like, Formal's going to be there literally at the venue, so, you know, Formal hopping on the Scump Watch party and all this, I'm sure is going to be a possibility at some points. Obviously, certain things are going to clash, so it is what it is, but I still think it's pretty exciting stuff. Now, I wanted to go through a couple of things before we get to the Los Angeles Thieves drama. We actually did this little video back in Dallas before on which, you know, the most underrated maps in the history of COD. Some of these takes were good. I quite liked K-Sun's take on Vacant, he said, from COD 4. I think that's a pretty good one. I mean, Zinni says Hotel, which is like, you know what, maybe, I don't know. To me, there's maps from back in the day. Obviously, you guys know my opinion on Stronghold, Throwback, like we're talking Terrace, S&D, we're talking Octane, Detroit, I thought was a pretty good one. Like even 04 goes for 6-star. I don't know what Gersh is talking about with Skyline, like I think he's faded. Freight from Bose is a pretty good one. But and yeah, I don't know about Dealership. But this I also wanted to get into, because these were the power rankings that the coaches did before the season started. So this is before the first major of the season. Now, also, you've got to keep in mind here that these power rankings are based at the start of the season largely just on hardpoint, some control, but not really any search and destroy. So, to some degree, it's understandable why Ravens were put low, because Ravens were not good in early scrims. Like, that's our understanding anyway. Like, it was not looking good for them at the start of the game, but their search was good, and they won every single Game 5 search really they played at the start of the year, and their respawn was actually much better in matches than it was in practice. So, Ravens outperformed. I mean, Ravens are probably going to be the 6th seed for champs. So I guess you're looking at this and you're trying to analyze, okay, who overperformed expectations, who underperformed expectations. And, well, Thieves and FaZe, they performed kind of at expectations, I would say, so far. They've both won events. They're both number 1, number 2 seeds. The big underperformer, despite looking better lately, has obviously been OpTic, right? I mean, the idea that OpTic were considered to be right there in the S tier, they'd just won champs, they were looking good at the start of the game, and they were pretty good at the start of the game. They were the number 1 seed going into Madrid, but obviously even then they had Huke in, the pred drama happens, and since then it's been an absolute movie. They go on the 0-18 run. So, yeah, the clear underperformer is OpTic compared to expectations on the year, but champs curse, baby, it is what it is. Toronto have been there or thereabouts where they were probably expected to be. And then Cloud9, I mean, Cloud9, early year, of course, you know, they kept with that team. The thing is, Cloud9 have been, in many respects, the other big underperformer because, you know, they were expected to be, by the coaches, roughly the 5th best team at the time. Like, these were in order, by the way, of actual rankings. So, you know, Cloud9 were considered to be marginally the 5th best. Whereas when the league actually started, they were comfortably bottom 4 and have, frankly, stays comfortably bottom 4 the entire year, and that's not changed. So they're probably the other big losers of the year. They're finally now made a change. Obviously, Surge messed around a bit as well with their roster. Like, they made the Neptune switch, and they've now got better, so they've overperformed. I think Heretics is interesting. I mean, obviously, sitting here in the B tier, if you had to rank Heretics today, you know, are they B plus? Are they A minus? They in that kind of ballpark? Are they A tier? Are they S minus? Again, like S tier is a bit of a stretch. Yes, they were 5-0 this stage, but they didn't play the strongest teams. They did beat Thieves on the way, of course. That was a big talking point. So I think Heretics have been better than expectations too. Gentlemates, I mean, they were considered to be kind of almost B tier before the year started. Obviously, back then it was a very different roster, but it was still a terrible roster. But the bottom 4, pretty similar to the teams that aren't going to make champs in the end, but Boston have overperformed. I think, like, look, they're expected to be awful, and they were mid, right? So, you know, like, respectable, I guess. At least they're going to make it to champs. Boston, certainly the idea of just sticking with that roster the whole year has paid some dividends, but it's still obviously not been enough and won't be good enough to win anything. Falcons were considered the world's worst, and, you know, we know what happened there. And Rocker were not considered to be great. They actually started quite well. They overperformed at the start of the year, I would say, in terms of initial results, but they just didn't accrue enough points, and then they fell off, and then since then it's been a bit of a roller coaster. But I wanted to share this clip again from the Los Angeles Thieves podcast they sat down and did. Again, people had their debates on whether this beanbag setup is actually any good or not. You can't really see the guys, which is true. They do look comfy though, to be fair. But Envoy and Thieves, they're talking about Super. We mentioned those clips yesterday. Certainly Envoy giving his take on Super playing for kills and all this, and that's going to be an exciting story when we go to the Major in a couple of days' time, because as I said yesterday, they could play each other in the second round of the tournament if they both win their first round game. If Heretics beat Rocker and if Thieves beat Surge, which they're both favoured to do, then they will play each other in the second round, which is pretty exciting. But Super, of course, is a rookie to the league, but he's not exactly 18 and cracked, right? And I think this is the point that the Thieves guys want to get into, is that yes, we are seeing some rookie talent, yes, we are seeing some challengers talent come through and make waves in the scene this season. But even Mercules, he's not 18. I think he's like 21, 22. Like, he's been around a little while. And in many ways, I think the league is very fortunate that a player like Mercules actually exists. Because in many respects, maybe he shouldn't. I mean, he used to play COD back in the day, Black Ops 4 and stuff like this, but he hasn't been able to play even challenges he couldn't play for some time because he wasn't 18. Then once he was 18, you know, he wasn't really playing all that much. Then he played one proper season, apart from his S&D tourneys that he was doing. And nowadays, as they describe, there aren't really S&D tourneys anyway. So a lot of the rookies we're seeing are certainly older nowadays. I mean, even Abuzah, who's been a bit of a revelation for the scene, he got his opportunity and he's like 22, 23, 24, right? Like, he's in that kind of age category after years of grinding, finally gets an opportunity in the league. The same for Dylan Rex. Like, Rex is, I think, 23, 24, something like that. So, you know, the rookies that we're seeing coming in now are not 18 like they used to be. I mean, the only real example of it in recent years is JoeDeceives, who was effectively a ranked play kid, got spotted and got put in, and we know what's happened with JoeDeceives over the last couple of years, has become one of the best players in the entire league. So I think despite all the drama around challenges, the guys here make a very fair point on the situation, and Scrappy also with a few words for encourage as well.
Yeah, didn't you make money off challengers, though?
Make money?
Yeah,
like
you were placing good.
No, I was not.
Were you
were
placing?
shit.
I was placing like top 3.
Oh, so you were a bum.
Top 3 is good.
No, but I think
Europe is ass.
It's not that ass stuff.
No, an MW19
What's
Paco,
worse? Top 16 in Europe.
I never was like the best team.
No,
When I was in HyDra, I was never
you were
the
still
best
up
team.
there though. You're still up there. But I don't know. I think Newer challengers. I mean, I'll throw his name out there. That Encourage kid. That kid didn't even give himself a chance, and he's like, "I'm retiring, bro. You didn't even start.
Yeah.
There's no retiring from something you didn't start."
Yeah. You didn't even give yourself 1 year.
Exactly. So like,
You have to play one
that's
full
why I
calendar
can't respect
year.
people that do that. Do that
Yeah.
because like, bro, I sat there for a year and I didn't have. I literally placed my bet. I won a cup. That's it.
What, in Cold War?
Yeah, and all my other top placements were like top 8.
Yeah.
I didn't have like an insane team.
My Vanguard, that's my Vanguard
But I
year.
still played,
My highest
so-
placing was like top 4 that whole year.
So it's like I hear them, but I think at the same time, it's like, bro, people don't even give themselves a chance.
Think when I talk
was
about
frying.
talent and challengers,
Ripping,
I'm talking
bro.
about the young kids, bro. I'm talking about kids like
Yeah, that's what I'm
U2,
saying.
U2 or U3 that came up, or even myself that came up when you're 18, 19, 20. I don't count talent challengers. That's 23, 24, my age coming in. This is not new talent. Encourage lurks. Abe,
Yeah, they're new.
They're
Those-
new.
Yeah.
But like, are they really like there
Derek the
yet?
Goat.
You know what I'm saying?
No, they're not gonna be like Simp.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Are they really
there
like?
is no people like Simp now.
Yeah.
Or like.
Like when we all
Scrappy.
played, bro, there was S&D. You know, there was ways to get better. Like you'd come in, you'd be already
honestly,
developed a little bit.
Big problem with COD. There's nothing for people under the age of 18 to play that's competitive.
Yeah.
Besides ranked play. That's it.
And yeah,
But what do you mean?
If you're 17 years old, what can you play? There's no S&E tournaments anymore. They don't really run.
Yeah.
No locals.
No locals, no eights.
Barely
Yeah, I won't
locals.
lie,
I
I
guess.
was playing hella locals.
Yeah.
When I was
So it is an interesting clarification that what they're trying to say maybe is that it's not like there isn't talent there, but it's like the talent that is there has been developed over, frankly, years because they've not been able to play before they're 18. It took them quite some time to really get up to speed, and by the time that they are up to speed and at that level, you know, they're no longer... The idea of this simp coming through isn't really there. And, you know, I understand why that's obviously a concern for the longer term, because the league might look at this and say, well, you know, we've got Mercury's, we've had Rex, we've had Lunarz, like we've had, you know, Rencor, Super. We've had some players that have come in, which is good. I mean, it's nice to have a churn. There are some talents in challenges, as we know. But I think the point is that all of those guys pretty much that I've mentioned have played for challenges for at least a fair bit of time and then got their opportunity. But they weren't able to really do anything in the years before they were 18, and that means that, you know, their careers aren't going to be as long or as extensive as they could have been otherwise, potentially anyway. Scrap says that Encourage kid, who actually, you know, is pretty young, he turned up, he played for a bit, and then he called it a day. And I understand why Encourage made the decision that he did. I think, understandably, you know, there's some criticism in terms of the way that he went about things. That's certainly the way that some of the pro players see it. Because as Scrappy says, in the Cold War year, yeah, he was good, but it's not like he was really winning anything, right? Like, it took him a while to get on a better team where he actually could do that. Eventually he did, and it worked out rather well. The next year in Vanguard, he was incredibly good. He subbed in that one series for Toronto, and then they decided they simply couldn't miss the opportunity to put him back in the league next year, which is what they did. And then he got his chance. So, you know, it's very rare, even for a guy like Scrappy. Like, I think Scrap's basically best player in the game right now, certainly right up there. His first year in Challenges, he was good. Like, obviously there was promise and talent, but it's not easy to win in Challenges. Like, Challenges is a high quality of play. You've got, I mean, a lot of the teams down there are basically stacked for the former pros, right? Like, it's not easy to come to Challenges and dominate. So I think there's also a fair point for some of the younger players to accept, if they really want it, that, you know, they've got to commit at least a couple of seasons, because it can take you at least a season or two to actually get on a decent team where you can start to show what you're capable of, and of course making massive improvements as well. So thought it was interesting that the Thieves guys were talking about that. I think right now there is a pretty clear top 3 ranking in terms of the rookies. Mercury's I would say is third, Super I would say is second, and then, you know, number 1 is probably, well, it is going to be Rencor for now. The Major could change things, but probably Rencor's going to win it this year. I think we thought that before the season even began. Xnid, you know, where's he in the conversation? He's been good, but at the end of the day, he is playing for a team that has been terrible, and it's not like his numbers are crazy, like he has a 0.9 or something like that, so it's pretty difficult to justify him over Mercury's, I would say, given the placements that Mercury's has already had. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.